Guys, intheinaka here. I'm gonna record the next video in the Grammar a Day series in a minute, but first I just want to turn on the camera and talk about something something that came up in conversation with a friend of mine a while back now, a few months back, when I was visiting him in Kyushu, about learning Japanese or just learning another language in general, really, which is just a moment that I think a lot of people will reach when they're learning a language. And it was a moment for me that really made me think, okay, this is a clear demarcation of taking another step towards becoming competent in Japanese. And that was, as I was discussing with my friend, this feeling, this moment of realization when suddenly it becomes clear that you're no longer learning words from a different language, and you're simply learning new words. Not sure if I've explained that very well, but for me it was this thought that, I'm still learning lots and lots of new Japanese words every single day. But I think there must have been not a clear moment, but gradually it shifted from feeling like I was learning new Japanese words to just this feeling that I was learning new words in general, that could have been in any language. And I think it's probably about the same time that I became able to start understanding Japanese explanations of Japanese words, and learning words through their Japanese context rather than learning them through their English transliteration first and then getting used to them. Which I suppose goes hand in hand with the process of constructing sentences in your own language first, in your native tongue first, and then translating them as you speak, which I think is something that a lot of people, if not all people, do with a language when they first start learning it. And I suppose a big step towards gaining fluency in another language is when you don't have to think about it, and you can just construct sentences in that language that you're learning off the top of your head without having to think about it. And I don't know when this point exactly was for me, but it's certainly something that I began to notice more and more, sort of after about probably 5 or 6 months in Japan, speaking Japanese every day, learning Japanese every day, and suddenly I realized I was rarely, at least, not completely, of course. I think it'd be a long time, perhaps never, that somebody would stop ever just thinking about it in their native language when you come across new words, at least, I think. And so I realized that I wasn't really, when I was listening to people speak, I was no longer trying to translate things into English in my head on the fly to make it easier to understand. And when I was replying or, coming up with my own sentences in my head, that's the thing, I'm not really coming up with my own sentences in my head, unless it was particularly complicated, perhaps I was trying to use unless I was using grammar form that I didn't use very often, or I'm talking about a subject that I don't talk about very often. So I sort of started moving away from constructing the sentences in my head first and then speaking them, and instead, I just started speaking Japanese. So that for me, I think, is a big indication of when you're really progressing. You're starting to progress in a language, is when you stop translating it in your head and you stop thinking of it as stop thinking of new words as Japanese words or German words or Swahili words, whatever language you're learning, and just start thinking of them as words and languages as one and the same. And it's something I found now. I'm taking Turkish classes at the moment. I'm learning some Turkish, and it's strange going back to the beginning, because I've been learning Japanese for 4 years now, and going back and learning a language from scratch, I'd forgotten how completely different it is to when you already have continuing learning a language you already have some proficiency in. And I'm finding it's taking a lot longer to retain new Turkish words than it is to retain new Japanese words. Partly, of course, because I'm in Japan, so it's going to be easier to retain words because you learn a new word and you start hearing it everywhere. If it's a common word, but of course I'm not in Turkey, so I don't hear it. I only see these words when I'm doing my studying and such. But also at the same time, because I'm learning I'm learning the English translations. Well, actually, I'm learning the Japanese translations because my teacher is Japanese, as I'm in Japan. But I'm learning the Japanese translations or putting my own English translations down, and I'm trying to associate the new Turkish words with those English or Japanese meanings, and then it just takes a lot longer to learn. I find. I can't construct sentences in my head to practice them, which I find I do a lot when I'm learning new Japanese words. When I learn a new Japanese word, a lot of the time I will just I will construct my own sentences in my head using that word and try and use it a few times in my head in a natural sentence and just try and cement it there, which I can't do with Turkish yet because I simply don't have the ability. So I just thought, this isn't really so much advice or anything, because, I can't say to people when you're learning a language, you should start off learning by thinking about it as an extension of your own language, because you can't, because you don't have the ability in the beginning to think about it in terms of, if you're learning a Japanese word, when you're just starting out with Japanese, you can't think about it in a Japanese way, and do that sort of thing, because you haven't built that faculty into your mind yet. Yeah, maybe. I don't know if that made any sense at all. But I just thought it was an interesting idea, and I think that is one big indicator of when you're starting to get to grips with a language, when it stops being another language and you just start thinking of it as new words to learn, as if you were learning new words in your own native tongue, because I'm still learning new English words all the time. If I read a particularly difficult book, I might learn some new English words, look them up, understand the meaning in English, and they become part of my vocabulary. And once you reach that stage, I think in a foreign language that you're learning, that is a big sign that you're starting to progress. I think maybe people have different opinions. For any of you out there who are studying Japanese, have studied Japanese, are proficient in Japanese or any other language, you might have different opinions. Please let me know. But in my opinion, I think that is a big sign of where you are. So thanks for watching. I'm going to go and do the third in my Grammar a Day series. I haven't decided which grammar point I'm going to do yet. I have a look through my textbook now, but that will be up pretty soon. Thanks for watching, and catch you later, guys.